Hello, everyone. Welcome to Garden State Greenlight, a podcast by ROI-NJ examining the business, policy, and economic forces shaping New Jersey's film and television industry. I'm your host, Thomas Phillip, multimedia journalist for ROI-NJ, as well as a filmmaker, writer, director, producer, editor, and performer, and I'm incredibly excited to bring you this episode. Today's guest is Moshe Gross, founder and CEO of Reset Locations, a New Jersey-based location agency that connects filmmakers, photographers, and production companies with unique properties for film, television, commercial, and photo shoots. Moish, thank you so much for joining us on Garden State Greenlight. It's great to have you here.
Glad to be here as well.
So before we talk about your company Reset Locations, tell us a little bit about your background. How did your career in real estate lead you into the film and television industry?
So I have family in the real estate industry, and I decided to get my first real estate license in order to sort of that was my angle of getting into the industry. Um, those days when you got your real estate license, you did a lot of door knocking and tried to get some residential homes. It
Mhm.
wasn't my forte at the time, but it prepared me for later on. Obviously, those door knockings really make a difference. You have to get some confidence for that. We sold a few houses, and then the opportunity presented itself to join a different world in real estate when I joined the Bellworks uh, revamp. At that time, it was a 2 million square foot empty building in New Jersey. It was Bell Labs, and I started working there when there was two other people working in the building, and worked there till there was 6,000 people working in the building on the renovation of a tremendous building in New Jersey.
Now, was there a particular project or experience that made you realize that there was a real business opportunity in, connecting productions with, unique locations, kind of like the Bell Labs?
So while being in the real estate industry, man, it was more management, real estate. We're doing retail, we're doing marketing, we're doing a lot of different things at one spot because it's an amazing building.
Mhm.
If he doesn't know the Bellworks building, go check it out in Holmdel, Bellworks in Holmdel, New Jersey. Um, And I was working on all different aspects of the property, whether it's marketing, whether it was leasing retail, events. And one of the things that came up was people would used to request photo shoots, even sometimes it was for magazine shoots. I remember one of the first ones was Vogue reached out to do a whole shoot. Uh, they were all over the entire building in a vacant building, and they never put those pictures out. But we've had massive shoots during those days. Uh, We've had a lot of commercials, and then I started touring a bunch of films, and I enjoyed what was going on. I enjoyed the process, while other people in the building couldn't stand it. We're trying to manage a building, we're trying to get tenants over here. What is this doing? I saw the opportunity at the time. It wasn't about a business opportunity; it was the opportunity about bringing excitement to a vacant property, and it was more the PR value that the film industry or production or photo shoots or all any of these things was positive PR. We got People thought the building was much more occupied than it really was, and it was the that industry, the production, the photos, film, commercials, that industry shined a light on the property that was unexpected, was something that unique, different. And I realized there's some sort of opportunity at the time. I realized there's something here to bring to other properties. I didn't know what yet at the time. And there was another thing that I realized. I was touring these large films, and they would come to New Jersey and then not shoot in New Jersey. And it was every week or every other week, I was touring some large productions, and they would not show up in New Jersey. They loved the building, but they wouldn't film over here. I didn't understand the whole industry. I came from the real estate industry, not from the film industry. And met with David Schoner. I happened to meet with him and some other people in the film industry, and learned more about the tax credits, but they went away at the time. I started advocating for tax credits coming back. And eventually, when I want to move on to when I left working for Bellworks, and I saw an opportunity to bring my expertise about working together with film, bridging the film industry with the real estate industry, while you could manage your property, you could manage your tenants and work with your running your property at the same time, have a film shoot on the property, and it wouldn't affect what the goings on and day in, day out throughout the property. So that's where I saw the opportunity. I saw opportunity presented itself, and I started running with it.
And at what point in time
Yeah.
did you discover this, the film industry and this kind of opportunity presented itself?
So I would say when I saw the opportunity a little early on, even when I was working at the Bellworks property, I realized that there's something over here. I didn't know exactly where it presented itself. At the time, I thought more like the Airbnb model
Hmm.
for film shoots. Um, that that is basically putting the stress still on the property owner.
Hmm.
You could have management, but most of the stress still goes onto the owner of the property. And I was trying to take it off of the property owners. So I was looking into various ways. Obviously, you're always pivoting once you get more deeper into industry, and it's about relationships. That's really what it's about. It's about relationships, knowing the properties, knowing how to look out for the properties. I saw that there's more opportunity to bring filming, which is I say is a extra. There's two parts to it. There's the PR
Hmm.
value, which I mentioned before, which I think is invaluable
Definitely.
on any property. It's something intangible and something that could bring a lot of with the proper people in place that talk about it properly. A lot of properties that I have filming at, they keep it very quiet. You'll never know if filming went on in the property, but and it also brings revenue to our property. There's some additional revenue. I think we brought in over $10 million worth of revenue into various properties throughout New Jersey in the past couple of years since we started.
What year did you come to the
Yeah.
realization that like, oh, the film industry is like a real opportunity
So
here?
So I saw the opportunity before they started the tax credits. The tax credits
Okay.
in New Jersey came back, I think, at the end of 2018.
Right.
Beginning of 2019, I left my job. I started a marketing company to actually originally for the real estate industry. A lot of people in the real estate industry had terrible marketing.
Hmm.
Um, and I realized there's an opportunity over there. After, for whatever reason, that fell apart. I had this idea in the back of my mind to focus on the film industry. I jumped head in. As you say, anyone in this industry, connected to the film industry, has to be a little crazy. So I jumped in over there. We started, signing up some properties. We've had our first film shoot was in, I would say I named my company officially in May or June of 2019. We started going around, checking out properties, signing up different properties, working out processes, getting a better feel for them. Our first major shoot was I remember when it was. It was September 19th, 2019. I remember the date because it was 9/19/19, I think. You know.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll remember that day because I also at the time I was doing some other thing. When you're starting up a company, you try to run some other things at the same time. I was very heavily involved in LinkedIn, and I was doing a big LinkedIn event that day, which I had for like 1,000 people. I was about making events, making buzz, making things happening, PR, marketing. That's my angle of looking at things.
Mhm.
And it was that same day. So I came to the building 4 o'clock in the morning to be there for the shoot and to facilitate what was going on. And I was there till 12 o'clock at night. But I realized while I'm in the industry, the longer I'm in this industry, people in the film industry work those crazy hours.
Yeah.
Well, I can't that. That's not cut out for me. I'm not cut out for all that. But these guys work crazy, crazy hours on these films.
Yeah. I think it's so
So
interesting that you kind of foresaw all of this happening before the tax credit hit big, you know?
yeah, I was talking to a lot of different people. We were connected. I was connected with different people in the government, and I
Mhm.
started talking to various legislators, state senators. I think even the senator at the time. And anytime I met someone, I said, "We get these tax credits." I think the governor. I believe I spoke to the governor as well
Hmm.
um, to bring back tax credits, but it was pretty early on the Murphy um, administration. I think that was the first term, second term. He brought back the tax credits, and that made all the difference. And then I saw, okay, this opportunity is a lot bigger than it was beforehand. Before it was like, okay, there's a few shoots here and there, but then we know what happened in 2020. I was working towards. I have had a few more shoots in between there and 2020. I was working on my largest film shoot, and the day of signing, I think, was about March 17th, 2020. Um, they had the contract in hand, and then they said everything got stopped. So we had everything shut down. You're working towards something, building up, and suddenly everything stops. So I was still, I would say during that time on COVID, there's two things that happened. First of all, properties were vacant. People were more interested in signing up their properties, even though
Hmm.
there's nothing going on. It was a challenge because people want to sign out their properties when you see filming happen. A lot of property owners say, "Okay, bring me the film, and
Yeah.
I'll sign up. Show me what the lead is. Show me who's the other side."
Right.
But some were like, "Listen, I have nothing coming going on. Come tour my property." I was walking up and down through Manhattan during that summer. The streets were empty. It looked like walk through office spaces and look out the window. You'd see vacant spaces left and right. Um, and so it wasn't just New Jersey at the time. I focused a little bit, moved too much on New York
Hmm.
during that time. And then when the filming did come back, it worked a bit to my advantage because when filming came back, the property was a little more vacant again, and they were able to accomplish a little more on the filming. I was working more. I focused at the time was more on commercial properties.
Hmm.
It was more office buildings, retail spaces, commercial industrial spaces. In the past year, we expanded into homes as well, which we'll discuss soon as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would love to talk a little bit about building reset locations. What were some of the biggest challenges with launching the company?
But as in launching any company, it's not sometimes you could take out a loan and launch a company. Here it's more of a brokerage.
Hmm.
So it's growing into something that doesn't exist. It's not like this I have my real estate license still, but it's not your regular real estate sort of deal. It's it's trying to sign up companies that are not sure about your vision 100% as much as you'll sell them your vision of what you'd like to do. And then it's working on growing your name that people trust you and want to um, use your service for their property or for the film.
Hmm.
And we've I think we've done a pretty good job at sticking to that. I still get all the time, a property owner, well, plenty of times property owners say, "What I need you for?" A film will call me directly, and I'll work with the film. And for those properties, I say, "Great, you don't need me." But I would say there's plenty of property owners that are running a property, a well-run property, is harder for them to facilitate a film shoot.
Hmm.
Um, it's really, it's sometimes when the person says, I'll do it, is because maybe they're struggling too much or they're just able to handle it. But a lot of properties just can't handle it, and that's what we're there for, not for everyone. And on the film side, it's a lot of times it's about can we find access to properties. A lot of times it's hard to access certain properties. We have certain relationships with various properties. It's a trust that we won't mess with their business. There's film is I work with hundreds of film scouts and they have a job to find a property. They want to knock on doors. They don't want someone coming in to their database and stealing all their files and just repping everything. So it's really my relations that I have with the property owners and trying to bring value to them. And on the film side, it's facilitating that with the property owner as well, but having a trust that we could work with this team and they're not here to take away our job as well. And I think we bridge the gap pretty nicely. I always tell my team, you know, don't push too much this way towards that way. Let's stay in the middle
Hmm.
because you want them to trust you. We're very protective about our name in the industry. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Now, what's the process look like from, the first phone call to the day that production begins or the day that filming begins?
I would say there's three or four different type of phone calls. So I think
Mhm.
we should touch upon a few things.
Yeah.
So in the past 4 years, I started um, doing production office space as well.
Hmm.
Basically, every film production is its own entity, its own company. a company, especially you want to get tax credits in New Jersey, you have to have a physical location in New Jersey. So you have to have a base, an office, a home office. The home office could consist of regular office. It's your company, you need office, accountants, producers, whatever it is that they have in their office. And then they usually need a few more spaces. They'll need another space for wardrobe, which means a costume department. And so sometimes they'll actually take an office space and install a washer dryer in an office space. And they'll bring in racks of clothing and start doing fittings because the actors will come there to fittings. Sometimes they'll do casting in that office. So these office spaces tend to be pretty busy office spaces, people in and out.
Mhm.
We were working back and forth with different properties to work with getting these films into their spaces. I've had a property owner tell me that if not for the films that rented a space for production offices during the downtime when there's nothing, there's not too much leasing going on. Now it's picking up, but he said he would have lost the building if not for those production that came in.
Wow.
Um, production office, they usually have a very low budget and they'll usually stick to their budget for production office. I'm getting a little more information over here, but it's important to understand that. But if you have empty office space, Jersey City, Hoboken, further out past that, they want to be close to New York City and they're open. They'll come in, they'll use your space for office. They'll have actors walk in and out. So some people like it, so we're excited about it. We know how to facilitate that. I get a call almost every single week for production office space. Then the next thing is warehouse spaces, which break down to three different things. There's warehouse spaces for actual filming, which could be turn into a soundstage, or
Mhm.
just a warehouse space for filming. Let's say you'll have a commercial that will, you'll see those scenes of a car, driving through a warehouse. That's a 1 day shoot. But then there's a third one, which is storage. They're looking for warehouse space for storage, which not just storage, also building sets. Sometimes they'll need a space to build their sets. So that's another type of warehouse space. Actually, so maybe it's four, three and a half, four different type of warehouse spaces. Then we go on to the actual locations.
Okay.
So actual locations, there's different ways they'll approach. Sometimes they know about a certain property that we rep. They're like, we want this property, can we come to this property? And sometimes it's about, we're looking for X, Y, and Z. We're looking for a home. We're looking for a warehouse. We're looking for a retail space. We're looking for a hospital. We're looking for an office. We're looking for a whole different type of, they'll give us a rundown of what they're looking for. Sometimes they'll have a little more clarity. The art department gave them exact pictures of what they're really looking for, and that could go into our files and say, okay, we have this. Sometimes it's going back to some property owners that I work with in the past may have bought more properties, but most of the time it's because they know that we work with certain properties and they want to come to us for those properties.
Mhm.
And then the process after that, that's step one. That's step one. So that's really reaching out to us, to my team, seeing if we have certain properties, see if we get them into certain properties. The biggest request of the past year has probably been hospital spaces. We
Mhm.
rep a few different hospitals. So we've had plenty of films in hospitals. You could name almost any film that came in New Jersey in the past couple of years. We've touched upon them, about 70% of them. Next step in the process is that's the original phone call. They'll come down to tour your space. So if you have a homeowner or you're owner of a building, I'll come down, show the scout your space. They'll take some pictures of the space. If they like that area, even though I may have pictures of the space of that, let's say home or office. Let's say they have picture of that office. The scout would want to come down and take pictures again because they have different angles. They want to see things based on the script,
Right.
which may not be in the original pictures or may not be in the other pictures I took of the space. Then after taking those pictures, they'll go back to their team. If they like it, they usually toured on a TV show, which is usually only a couple weeks out for when they want to film. They make quick decisions. They'll say we want to come back. They usually have another two places they're looking at, a couple places they're looking at on films when they have a lot more time on a feature film. They'll look at 50 places. So if I'm looking at your house, it's one of like 40 or 50 houses that they probably looked at. So
Mhm.
it's not always it's gonna get chosen. On an office space, since we do have some unique offices, usually I could narrow that down, or in hospital space as well. We rep We're pretty exclusive on certain hospital spaces that it's very hard to access. So then they'll come down with director, art department, till we'll work on contracts that will facilitate the filming. It's then we get into filming and then restoration after filming. Another value being to property owners,
Yeah.
those tours could be a lot for a building. And I would tell the properties a lot of times they want to have someone from the property there, especially hospital. You usually have someone there because of HIPAA. But
Mhm.
as you get those tours take up a lot of time, and
Right.
we have someone from our team come over there and spend their time on those tours. They come back. Sometimes they'll come back 5 or 6 times. Some of them they'll have questions. They'll call me with questions. The property owner doesn't always see all the questions that come in. I will only present certain questions when needed to ask them.
Right.
Then you hear be so their property manager is able to handle the day-to-day of managing a property without getting crazy amounts of questions that come in. Again, the film is not just about the filming in your building. It's the lead up to filming in your building.
Right.
I'm working with one right now. It's a challenging one, but this one is a vacant property, and we're trying to figure out can the HVAC work, can the power work in the building because the building has been shut down. So there's
Mhm.
different things there. Obviously, you have to involve the property management. They have to get the right answers because I'm not going to give an answer if your HVAC is working. I don't know your systems. I could show your space, showcase your space, and facilitate, pushing everyone forward because it's not your regular focus. But again, I'm not going to sign off. I'm not signing off on your documents. I give you advice based on other films, but I'm not your attorney. There's still someone that should be reviewing it.
What makes a property a great filming location?
Right. So I like saying this all the time. People think that if they go and they buy a building that looks like a real dilapidated building and it has like graffiti on the wall and it's run down
Mhm.
and it looks like a junkyard, like, wow, this is like a straight out of a film scene. If you see that, they probably can't film in that building. That's because that building probably has lead paint, asbestos, and has other hazardous materials in there, and they'll come down these days. And maybe 30 years ago, they may have filmed in those properties, but right now, these days, they have every department has. I worked with Universal last month. They came in with 5 different health and safety departments. They flew in from California, to oversee that. Um, Netflix this week they had 2 people from of health and safety. They'll have a big department that to overlook the spaces. So if your space looks film worthy in that sense, probably doesn't work for film. They probably need something that's a lot cleaner, and then they dress it to look like that. So sorry for the bust the bubble for anyone out there. But what makes a really good location? There's a few things that make a great location. When you're filming, when you see an office, is usually there's a lot of space behind that office because it's not just about filming in your small little cool looking office in a mom and pop office. They need a lot more room behind it. So let's say you tour a house. If a house the hallways are too tight or too small, they can't the camera get the angles that they want to shoot or
Mhm.
have the people behind them. When the camera's there, that means there's a whole team behind that camera. They could be on a small film, they could have 40, 50 people behind there. On a large film, there could be 100 people that's waiting in another room right nearby. So it's having the room for those people to be during filming.
Mhm.
Um, there's there's also there's other things that can make a property better for filming. If your property is interesting, yes, they'll could be able to choose your property, even doesn't have all the things that can make it better. It has area for holding and catering. So if it be in a building or in a property, if you have vacant space where they could have people sit around, do hair and makeup, do catering in their space, they have to eat. People have to eat. They have people holding. Let's say they have extras. People have to sit around somewhere, so they need to put them somewhere. Um, so having that space makes it a little better. Having parking is super important. If you have a parking lot, again, I use Bellworks as an example. Bellworks has a 4,000 uh have over 4,000 parking spots. So over there, I could take a quadrant of the parking lot. They could park their trucks, put everything on one property. As for holding a catering, which will always work very well at Bellworks, it's getting there a lot more leasing going on. And there's almost not as much space as it was in the past. I'll use that as an example. There's there's a lot more things that make a property good. There's the main thing that makes a property a good property is having a great owner that wants to have filming in the property. If I'm forcing an owner to have filming in a property, it's usually not the best fit.
Yeah.
Because then they're complaining if I just sort of came in, say I love your property, pay them a lot of money, somehow it won't really work out. And it has to be that the property owner has buy-in to having filming, and that's usually 90% of the properties we're working with is because they have buy-in on the they want to have filming in their properties, and therefore again it's called like pre-cleared. It's cleared already, meaning the films know when they call us up that therefore they could. It's almost for certain they could film the properties. Obviously, things are changing, especially since I work with a lot of office buildings. A space that may have been available a year and a half ago may have got leased up. It may have been available for 5 years because leasing was a little slow in the office, but now leasing picked up, so that space may not be available. A building that was vacant, that was a great building for filming, may have been knocked down. We've had a couple of buildings we worked with that just knocked down. They're putting up apartment buildings or putting up something else, and that's or warehouses. So things do change. You have to always check in on the properties. But again, making a vacant property doesn't mean it's a great property either. As I just said before, I have a vacant property, but now your air conditioning doesn't work, your water doesn't work. So that doesn't always make a great property. Uh, Usually, a good office property is if it's partially vacant, and if you think about it, if you have tenants in the building, even though they get inconvenience for that 1 or 2 days of filming, they're showing up to work the next day. People are not showing up; they're showing up to work. So they're talking about it. It creates a buzz in the building, it creates excitement in that property. And there's something that can't be said about that. When you bring excitement to a property, tenants show up, employees show to work because they want to talk about filming. Yes, yeah, the day of filming, will they get inconvenienced? Yes, let's be honest. But is that excitement that it brings to our property later on, or even before the film comes out? The guys that missed out on the day of filming, this they're talking about it. They're talking about it back at home.
Right.
And what's better? What's better out there than having your building talked about?
Absolutely. So it
And
seems like productions are really looking for something that could be satisfactory from an artistic standpoint, but it seems more so from a logistical standpoint. That's really what they're kind of looking for.
yeah, yeah. Again, in every film, you're gonna have that cool building. We worked with a show that's coming out, I think this fall. They were looking for a real cool building, and we found it for them. It's gonna be featured throughout this upcoming show.
Mhm.
And so that's artistic. The building doesn't have the great infrastructure inside. Not really. The lobby's a bit tight, but the exterior of the building is great exterior. It doesn't inconvenience the employees so much because it's really exterior. Might
Mhm.
inconvenience a few parking spots. So it doesn't satisfy all the interior stuff about holding on catering, but it satisfies the look on the exterior. So yeah, having a cool building is very unique. It's something interesting. It's something they want unique built properties. Not saying it's not that they don't want unique properties, but then again, if you have your run-of-the-mill sort of building, you have a vacant nursing home, you have a office building that a few floors are vacant. You don't think it's too unique. You have a multifamily property. It's an old property. It might be to you. It's not interesting. It's like okay, it's a regular property. We just had filming for a month in a older multifamily building. They're there for a full month. Although you might think that building's not too exciting. So the film industry, filming is usually about the regular life of regular people. Someone gets up in the morning, so you have a house. I say this all the time. You have a house. He goes to work, so you have an office. You have roads on the way to work, which I don't deal with roads. I don't deal with
Right.
property with any county roads or anything like that. Unless you have a private road, I'd love to talk to you. If you have a private road, I'm all game. Um, then the guy goes, someone gets in an accident. They end up in the hospital. I'm just saying what a film could feature. We work with some schools. He takes his kid to school maybe in the morning. He goes to a grocery store. We work with some grocery stores. We've facilitated filming in some grocery stores this year. And then actually that wasn't regular filming. That was actually market research for tech companies. So just a side thing. You might not always have a film, but it might be shown up on some tech company on their internal websites. It's not shown externally. Um, After that, yeah, just going through a regular thing of what people have, people have going on and what they're looking for. And so it's not always your unique space. It's more, again, as you said before, it's about the willingness of the property owner, about having a logistical team that's over there, having a manager that's not complaining the whole time and during that process. Again, we're managing as much as possible. We're managing from my end. There is a certain amount that the manager of the team has to be there, or engineer or super, whatever it is, building you have. But it's more about the film finding what works for them, and the more I could showcase to them, the more I could show them. That's what really makes it work for filming.
You talked about how property owners they need to have full buy-in in order for this to kind of work. What are some of the biggest misconceptions property owners have about allowing film productions to enter their space?
So there's a few things on the let's touch upon
Mhm.
commercial real estate. Um, Again, I use Bellworks as an example because that's where I facilitate a lot of films, and it's the most logistical nightmare. But we
Mhm.
made it work with 5,000 people working in the building, and we made it work. I've had property owners that have 100 people in the building and with a vacant atrium, and they're like scared to have filming because scared that the employees might be in the building might be a little annoyed by having filming over there.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know how to make that work, and understand that some guy might get insulted with the proper messaging to them that can make filming happen in that space. We had someone I met last week. They're like, we can't deal with films. It's not worth it to have to put a person and dedicate someone for the film while they're there. I think their anxiety came from they got a lot of knocks from very small films.
Mhm.
It's not worth their time. They got an offer of a couple $100 or $1,000, or for whether it's indie film, which has some budgets depending on the indie film, or it's a student film. People knocking on the door, and they're like, okay, or maybe they did filming once with them, but they didn't have someone looking out for them, and they had a bad experience. I've had this week. I met a group, and they were like, we're not doing it. I made some calculation based on the building of the films that we bring in, the films, we a lot of times it's about sorting through the films that knock on our door. We say no to a lot of films, whether it's even you have a great building, not always do we let that film into your building. So looking out for your property. So they're nervous that it's gonna be too much of a hassle. Maybe it's too little money. Uh, Sometimes presenting a little bit money to the property, sometimes that worked. So it worked in this instance. Once I talked about exactly what they get paid for filming for a day or two. They think someone's moving in for a month. Someone's coming to film. Okay, they're gonna be here. They're gonna wreck my property. Another thing is about protection. I had a office building where we have production office. So production office is not filming. It's different. They move in. They treat it like their own space. When you have filming in a space, in the same building, actually, I'm working with that right now. You have filming in that building. They're going to come in. They're going to protect every part of your space. They'll protect the walls with coatings. They'll cover the carpet if you want, with plastic. Um, Sometimes they'll paint a wall because they'll want a certain color on the wall for whatever it is, and they'll restore it so you have a fresh coat of paint on your wall. We've had plenty. I've heard stories of properties which had peeling paint everywhere. Who knows what? And then they repainted the whole place. I have heard of a home. The guy had bought an old home as an investment, and they took off the whole roof and put a brand new roof on their property because they filmed the whole film out of that property. So there's other things that could be said. Uh, about a property. Obviously, yeah. Do you have are the damages sometimes? Yes. I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen. If it rained the day before they came to film your property and people working on the grass gets damaged. Will they cover the costs for fixing up the grass? Yes. Will property grass always be perfect that season? Not always. They'll mitigate as much as possible. They'll put down protection. They put down certain things. Not always is you all know what's gonna happen. If we have a big rainstorm the day before, we didn't know about that. Um, Sometimes they'll go into home, they'll have a covering for their shoes. They'll cover their shoes. It really depends on the homeowner as well. Sometimes you have a homeowner that it's an older home that don't really care so much about that. They'll rather they'll clean up afterwards. Well, the place was pretty dirty. It looks better than you left it. Sometimes on the high-end homes, we're looking out for them a lot more. Therefore, we have someone there on site throughout the whole process, making sure it's really, really looking out for the property. So misconceptions, it's, it's, again, I like being very honest with the films, with the property owners, actually. Be honest with films as well, but be very honest with property owners on what to expect when filming is always there. It's not as challenging as it may seem that it is. And it's not, again, it's not always the other way. It's not always that you sign up your property, that necessarily is someone filming there tomorrow. We've had plenty of properties that we've signed up and no films have come to the properties because they just didn't choose it. It's not up to us. If someone's choosing a property, you could present it to every film out there. Someone came to me yesterday, very cool property actually, and they're thinking about whether it should be used for rentals or for filming. And I said straight up, I want to get, I said, I want to rep your property. I want to showcase your property in the film industry. But let's be honest, is it going to be booked up throughout the year? I don't see it being booked up every week. There's not enough to facilitate. It's still not California. As much as California has less filming going on, but
Mhm.
it's still a lot more. The people over there had homes that were facilitated. Now they're struggling. Now the homes that someone bought for filming, it may not be a good investment anymore. By the time California was like that, but
Mhm.
here in New Jersey, it's we're getting there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying no, we're getting there, but I wouldn't say yet go and buy a property for, to be used just for filming. But if you do buy property for filming, I'd love to be your contact. We're talking to at any moment, we're talking to 5 or 6 films on
Wow.
any given day. We're talking to a lot of films. It's not 2019 when there were a couple of films going on in Jersey, and I was talking to only 2 or 3 of them a year. Here we're talking to 20 or 30 films. I think
Wow.
we've had filming every single week of this year in different properties.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean the
Yeah.
growth has been huge. I mean, from your perspective, how has the growth in the state changed the demand for locations? I mean, it seems like there's more demand more than ever.
Well, as I just mentioned, there's a lot more
Yeah.
going on. The growth, I would say, having the studios here is tremendous. It's going
Mhm.
to be even more. Right now, they're not even here. You don't realize that.
Right.
With all the filming that's going on, they still haven't opened up the new all the new stages. So
Right.
there's a shortage of stages. So what it did was for my company is that right now we have a lease, we have an agreement for a space for sound stages. It's really a warehouse, and they
Yeah.
have not. There aren't enough. The films have to come here. Let's say Netflix, Lionsgate, Paramount. All of them by signing up with the state, they committed to come to the state and to bring the same amount of films to the state already now. Their space is only built in another year or two from now, but they have to be here
Mhm.
already now. Now that's a challenge because there's not enough sound stages. All the sound stages are booked up, so they're looking for extra space. A few of them actually film. They're booking sound stages in New York, and they're filming on location over here. That's how it's going. A couple of them. That's how much New Jersey is drawing the drawing the films over here. Is that they'll book a soundstage in New York, film that stuff in on the stage, but do everything else in New Jersey on location. So when that
Interesting.
happens, they'll come to us for a lot of locations. Then there's been films that don't use any sound stages. A lot of the Adam Sandler films in the past 2 years went only out on location.
Mhm.
I worked with only a couple of them, but they've been out on location on almost everything. I don't think they even use a soundstage for any of that. So it's only going to grow from here. It's only going to grow where obviously in every state there's a certain period. I hope it keeps growing in New Jersey, but you see other states that are struggling. Wouldn't know where the challenges in the future lie, but I see right now these groups are investing. Netflix, Paramount, Lionsgate, I think there's going to be more investing in soundstage in the space and investing, bringing films here, billions of dollars into the state. So that's going to cause things to shift. I live in central Jersey, so I think there's going to be a lot more filming move a little more central.
Mhm.
I think as we come a little more down, we worked with stuff in Long Branch last year, stuff in Rumson, stuff in Red Bank, but I think there's going to be a lot more coming to this area, to that central Jersey area. Right now, they're trying to stay closer to New York. I think that's going to shift a little more south the next year.
That's really interesting. What are some of the projects, if you don't mind me asking, that you've been involved in recently or in the past? If you're allowed to disclose them, I understand if you're not.
Projects I've worked with in the past. Well, in the early days before I even started, and as I started out, there was more. Where I worked at I worked at Bellworks. It was more like photo shoots. It was like commercials. It was, I think my first larger one was Tim McGraw did a big photo shoot for his cover of his one of his albums he was shooting in PNC Art Center.
Mm.
He had no, his film. He had a concert. He had a concert at PNC Art Center, and came over for to do a whole photo shoot during the day. I think Cadillac was our biggest commercial at that time. Was a massive thing. That was back in 2017, I would say 2016. I
Mm.
don't remember anymore. Drone Racing League did a whole big thing in the building. You could look it up. You could play. You could actually fly around Bellworks Drone Racing League. I think they call it the Manhattan Project, something like that. But the first largest one was Emergence. That was ABC. A couple more commercials, photo shoots out that year. There was a film called Jules I worked with. Um, I can name everything. I can name a bunch. Law and Order, we looked on some stuff. Severance, obviously, was a big one.
Yeah.
That was the Bellworks one. Um, there was a intro for We Crashed that I worked with in Chicago. It wasn't even in New Jersey. Um, that was Apple TV. There are a bunch of indie projects we worked with as well. We had the Equalizer season two. They used a parking lot. It's about, you asked about locations, about the spaces. What's something unique? Yeah, we had a request. I had a request actually this week for another parking lot. I don't know if I have it yet, but we've had requests for parking lots. The one that's working in Middletown. That wasn't through us, but we showed them plenty of parking lots. There's one that's right now. There's a film that's filming. They made a whole truck stop in Middletown, New Jersey. Let's see some other ones. Dumb Money was one we worked on.
Mm.
Some recent ones. I'll just skip ahead. Space Cadet was something. Um, let's skip ahead to some other ones. A lot of them were in the hospital spaces. Musica we worked with was a one that was in Amazon. Wu-Tang worked on a couple of different spaces with Wu-Tang. Um, hmm. American Horror Stories. That was when they were about to shut down. I think they got shut down in the middle of filming because
Mm.
they had the strikes in the film industry, which we didn't
Right.
discuss. That was another year of my business that didn't go as planned.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, the positive of that is that things picked up afterwards. It's more than before. But yeah, it was a downturn for about a year. Beast and Me, we worked with recently. I'm going to more recent stuff. Out in Chicago, Chicago Fire. Um, Happy Gilmore 2. Then there's some other ones the ones that are coming out right now. I think it came out last week. Little Brother came
Oh
out
yeah.
last week. We worked with them on hospital stuff. It's featuring some news. I keep talking about it, Bayonne Hospital. They filmed in a house as well. Then there's a film coming out, I think, end of the summer. I think next month. It's called The Best of the Best on Netflix. We work with them on some of the main locations. Complete Unknown was Office Space, but a lot of other ones. There's other ones coming out. I think Big Mistakes. 72 Hours just came out, I think, this week on Netflix. That's Kevin Hart. We worked with them that the main location, the home where they filmed everything in Miami. That was in New Jersey.
Oh, no kidding.
I Play Rocky. We did some stuff with them. The Office Space also and stuff on the streets. Some apartment in a home in throughout New Jersey. And then the rest of that, I think the rest of it I can't talk about. There's a lot more.
Yeah, fair.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think the rest of it I can't talk about. There's a bunch more that's coming out in the next couple months to a year. A lot going on. A lot going
Yeah,
on.
that's an incredible resume actually. So what do you think it is about New Jersey that makes it such an attractive place for all of these productions compared to other states?
So I think that in the beginning, New Jersey was that it's something new and it hasn't been filmed too much yet. Like
Mm.
you have other areas that are oversaturated. For example, in New York, they're using uh, tax credits to get people to go out of New York City. They're offering them much more money to go further up and further out. That's because they're finding unique stuff further out. But New Jersey has that almost everywhere. You come here, it's hitting a certain critical point in some areas. Let's say Hoboken, Jersey City, on the brownstones, people are getting a little annoyed in those streets. So you over don't you do too much, it gets a little annoying. But
Mm.
beginning, Obviously, it didn't have that yet, but New Jersey has done a lot more on the film commission side. The film commission has realized there's certain things that you don't have in New York because in New York you get a permit, and that permit works for all of New York City. I think so, something like that. But in New Jersey, you're going to come into one town and you travel down the road and you're in the next town, the next town.
Mm.
Each one has a different permit, each one has a different thing. So they created something called Film Ready, which they train the towns on what they expect. Sort of what I would do with a homeowner. They're talking to the city, what they should work with. And we've had 2 weeks ago, we had the city that changed their mind in the middle of filming and shut down filming on a property. We had to work with that. But New Jersey still has a lot more potential, a lot more. You go further out, there's everything there. There's you go up north, up an hour north, you have mountains. You go down south, you have spread out lands, you have farmlands, you have a lot of things without traveling too far. So in New York, they have to travel, I think 4 hours to get all up upstate New York. You got the certain areas that you want to get to. In New Jersey, you get that in an hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
So it's more condensed into one area. With the tax with not the tax with the unions, they still try staying within a certain zone. The name TMZ means 30-mile zone. So they try staying within that 30-mile zone, which is based in New York, which I hope shifts somewhat to New Jersey. So that limits them by being in some areas because the unions want to stay in those areas. But even with that, a lot of films had gone out. Films gone out to Cape May. Films gone out to Trenton, gone out to other areas. So they're starting to spread out and see what else New Jersey has to offer. I think that's gonna happen a lot more next year. I think once studios open over here, I think it's gonna get them to go a little further out. But it's a lot of I've tried to convince the film to have a building that's out of this zone that really works perfect for this production, but it's too far for them.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm trying to convince them just travel a little further. But again, they have other costs that they incur by traveling further. So, it's a business decision.
That makes sense. And what are some of the specific regions or locations in the state that you think are underutilized right now?
There's a lot of space that I've shown for filming that I thought filming would go to.
Mm.
That it's only happening now. Um, like I've shown a lot of stuff in Parsippany that has a lot of vacant office space, but it's
Mm.
still a travel for them. Morristown, Parsippany. They've had some filming there, but not to the extent that they could have over there. And those buildings are getting torn down soon. But if what you really, really underutilized is all anything out of that zone, as I mentioned before, you start traveling a little further out. You go to the Pinelands in New Jersey. You go up north. There's farmlands. You go down there, Atlantic City area. You go to Cape May. It's used in some films, but not. There's so much more out there.
Yeah.
It's not like people think that come to New Jersey and be sitting in traffic. Again, in the summer, yeah, I still have beach traffic on the weekends, but you could travel at these spaces, these areas. You're doing the reverse commute. You come to New Jersey, or even you base your film out of those areas. You hire local talent. You hire people that live in New Jersey. Because a lot of people actually live in, a lot of producers live in Central Jersey. I don't want to give away their home location, but uh, but a lot of them live over here, and a lot of them are still moving here. People call me all the time saying, let's say, help me sell a home to producers moving here. But there's a lot of areas way out that underutilized. There's some really really nice homes throughout New Jersey that could be really cool if they were featured in these films. And again, a lot of office spaces, a lot of factories. Once you go down to these small towns in I would say southwest New Jersey. I can't name all the counties. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can name all 50 states, but I can't name every county in New Jersey. And once you start going out there, there's some unique factories. Camden has some great factories.
Mm.
There's other areas as well, and you can have these scenes that just don't you can't get anywhere else. Everyone focuses on the Hudson, on that side, or the water, or the Atlantic coast, but you
Yeah.
go all the way to the Delaware, near Trenton, all along the water over there. Some
Yeah.
beautiful areas. I know there's a film that's me filming on those ships over there, by Trenton. So that they are utilizing it, but not to the extent it could be.
I would love to look into the future a little bit. And, as more studios are opening, more productions are choosing New Jersey, what opportunities are exciting you the most?
I see growth within what I do. I'm trying to expand. I have other ideas of how to grow. Whether I do my world of right now, I'm just brokering the locations, but I see there's opportunities to expand within the film world. I get calls all the time for investing in films. I'm not there. Um, I'm not looking to act in any films, so I don't think that's the opportunity for me. But there's opportunities for investing in real locations. I believe we're growing. We're opening other departments, to which I can't announce yet. We have other departments within the film industry to help other parts of the industry. There's other opportunity for housing. Calls we got recently, um, films because producers and I see many producers because people from the film industry from California looking for jobs, and there's less work over there. Again, over there they had hundreds, probably let's say 100,000 people working in the film industry, and it's only 50,000 people are unemployed. They're looking for this work, and there's work in New Jersey. A lot of them are coming here, and they need places to stay for those that time. We're opening a division for homes, for housing, even for temporary housing for these people as well. There's other opportunities. There's other opportunities for growth within, like I said before, the storage. Once they start doing much more filming over here, although Netflix is building sound stages, they're going to look for storage. They're going to look to rent a warehouse locally, to store their sets because you may not know the other things that go on within the film, but let's say it's a TV show and they built their sets and they have it up for a year, and then
Mhm.
the next TV show comes in and uses the space. They want to save all their equipment for that TV show that comes back for season two. So sometimes they won't know that for a year and a half to after editing to after the show comes out. And then they want to save all that stuff and put it back. So they may rent a warehouse. There's a lot of other opportunities within the industry. Again, within what we do, we're looking out for a lot more properties, unique stuff. You have a unique retail space, a restaurant, a home, office space, um, warehouse, where we'd love to be that avenue, that address that people call to look out for their properties and to bring some revenue, bring filming to their properties.
As the industry continues to grow, I guess the role of location agencies and reset locations will probably be more prominent.
I know you have a way of reading the future,
Yeah.
but I'm not there yet. Obviously, we can touch upon the AI industry.
Yeah.
It's going to affect the film industry. Now, a few years ago, when they started shooting more on green screens and with more with digital technology,
Mm.
everyone said, okay, you're not going to need a location for filming because you'll go in the sound stage and suddenly the screen will come on behind you and suddenly you're in, just like on over here, on a Zoom, someone could you can change the background. You can do
Right.
that in a film, but there's a certain aspect of it that's not natural, and the
Right.
films know that. Just like the AI aspect of it, of those films that they create, um, through AI technology, they can look so real, but there's certain connection, human connection that it doesn't capture. The same with the location. When an actor comes and acts in a real location, a real home, is a difference that comes out in the actual product of the film. And that's where they'll spend all that money to be in a real location rather than shoot in a warehouse and build that up. Besides for the cost of building the sets in a warehouse and everything like that, or creating that fake digital technology, it is a cost in creating those digital aspects.
Right.
There is there's certain tangible aspect to having a real space. So when
Yeah.
you come to a real building, there's something that you just can't, that there's a human connection. You have a human talking to you. When you have a real space that you're touching, that someone's acting that space. So it's interacting with that space that you can't just get from digital technology. So I believe still, yes, it's going to affect some parts of the industry. There's certain things that may not work in the future.
Mhm.
We've been talking to people about digitizing some of our locations that may not exist. Let's say a building's getting knocked down, digitize that and own the digital rights to those locations, and then sell it as a location, and people can use it as a background. We've been talking about different ideas, but there's other ways of growing even within this new world.
Has adapting to the new AI landscape or digital landscape, has that been a challenge?
It hasn't. I don't think it hit us yet, really, because people they're operating as if doesn't affect things yet.
Right.
All the films, you see, they're investing in building up sound stages,
Mhm.
which may not be needed in a couple of years.
Mhm.
I think the locations are needed even more than the sound stages in a way because they go out there. But we use that advantage in order to work with requests. We build a back end system that's people could that when I'm going through our locations to find stuff, find different type of spaces to look into the pictures. If someone submits a picture to look like this, we can use our technology these days to find within some other building that may have that sort of look that back in the past, I would have looked for hours to try to comb through each picture to see what we have, to find something that has that sort of look. Now, with a push of a button, you find 20 pictures that have that sort of look. Not everything works for that film, but
Right.
it's easier to find a lot of the stuff now.
We'll end on this one. What's one thing about filming on location in New Jersey that you wish more people understood?
There are challenges. I would say there's challenges still to filming in New Jersey because you're working with a township. There's still certain parts of the township. But I think I wish more people understood there's still locations here in New Jersey that we're based in New Jersey. We're here for your property, and knowing that you're able to have a company out there that could work with you, that can help you through the process, that's looking out for both sides, looking out. Obviously, we're looking out for property owners more, but we're still protecting the film industry. And when I get new guys from New York. At first, sometimes they're a little nervous when they're first coming, or from New York or from anywhere, and they come to film over here, New Jersey. They're like a little nervous in the beginning, and then sometimes are those bad apples, bad experiences here and there, but most of the time I'll hear, "Wow, it's amazing! We could park over here. We don't it's not blocking off who knows what for days on a tight New York street. We could park. There's a parking lot." There's a suburban office building with a parking lot. A lot of things that they didn't realize actually exist in New Jersey. And the biggest one was we filmed Severance in Bellworks in New Jersey.
Mhm.
I was talking to Apple afterwards. I was trying to do a large event, and we were pitching to Apple the different departments. They have the production team and they have the marketing team. And we tried to tell the marketing team what they should be doing over here, more interaction with people, with the filming. They sent someone down to look at the property. They didn't realize it was a real property. They thought it was fake. I mean, this is the team, this is the company behind making Severance. They didn't realize it was actually a real property.
Yeah.
So the properties do exist in New Jersey. There are a lot of amazing properties that do exist in New Jersey. And you come out and visit. I'll show anyone. I'll show you any of these properties out there. And again, as I said before, if you want me to show your property, I can show you your property as well to the film industry. We're dealing with films every single day. We'd love to show your property, exhibit it to the film industry, and get your tenants back to work. In regards to your home, get your home featured on a film. If you already had your home featured in a film, have someone manage it properly, having that process run a little smoother for you.
Moish, thank you so much for joining me. This was a great discussion. Had a lot of fun here. Learned a lot, so this was incredible.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think this is the most detail I got on a conversation, but it was a great conversation. Love having these conversations, and open to more conversation to next time we continue this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have you on again in the future. And yeah, this was great. Thank you so much.
Okay, have a wonderful day.